Alrighty, daily trading recap for this Thursday, the 9th of December, 2021. Cutting it a little bit before market close here. We are heading out of town in a little bit here, and then we're going to be gone for tomorrow, so no daily trading recap for tomorrow either. Just nice day out there again. I had a little bit of distraction again this morning with my nephew coming over, some other family stuff that way too, so was still able to get some trades out, get that more practice experience in. Dove in more to actual a little bit bigger size with the cash account again, so took kind of $100 size here, $200 size here, so not going crazy over the edge, over the top, position size that way too, but stemming after getting a little bit of confidence back from that paper trading aspect, just dipping my toe in the water again here, sending us off into the weekend, into this little break that I'm going to have here on a nice, good note. Exposing myself more and more to that actual emotion of it and the dealing with the emotion of it, which is a big aspect to it. I was just completely lost and in the wrong things when I was before I made this transition on that 23rd of November. So I really just had to get back to, okay, what am I looking at? What am I going after? Just completely disconnect myself from the attachment to money, attachment to the actual P&L losses, and just go back to, I am looking at the totally wrong things. I need to be evaluating something totally different. So that was the change process I need to be made, and I feel we've made some great strides in that area. So just continuing to delve back into that little realm and next target area, next area of tackling for me, and that there should be no difference between the connection to what I'm doing risk reward wise on the paper side and risk reward wise in reality. There should be no difference mentally. If you're watching me from the outside, there shouldn't be a clenching of the body physically. There should be no external signs that way. So continuing to go through the process, just little by little that way, to dip my toe in the water that way. Today I felt there was just a lot of, in the morning session at least here, of course I'm not trading anything in the afternoon here, just a lot of, or not even a lot, but just, it was almost just kind of like flip a coin of some charts were going to work out pretty well for what we thought we were going to do. Of course, the ISIG that we'll get into, PPSI worked out pretty nicely, but then it was just like similar type of things, similar type of patterns, or similar type of charts on like CFVI, that just didn't work out when PPSI worked out. And SYTA just didn't really awesomely work out compared to like ISIG. So just kind of one of those days. It's just like it is what it is, and you can be correct, but the market really doesn't care if you're correct. If you're trading on the most awesome theses, if you think you're in the correct stock and the other one's not going to work out, it doesn't really matter. It could move whatever it wants to do and go wherever it wants to go, and we have to respect that. And a great little reminder of it, that being correct is not what makes money. Making money is making money. It's not about being right in this line of work. So continuing to hammer that away, we're going to keep this nice and concise on this video to get us out of here. We'll start off with CFVI. Starting off long in pre, we're in this nice little daily hold here, looking for a break at that $15 psychological level that I mentioned yesterday. A little bit of pullback here in the pre-market, but I was identifying this $14 level as it was kind of bouncing and holding well, knowing in my head too, okay, at $14 level, it is a key psychological level as a whole dollar, but it doesn't have to respect that perfectly. But for some reason, it was holding there very nicely. And it was never really tapped. I don't think it ever broke 1401, especially on the bid. And it continued, I think it printed there a few times maybe, but never broke that point. So I was just kind of sizing in very slowly, going through the steps to say, I know it's a very not probable trade here in pre that we get any amount of spikeage or perkage. But what this thesis on the trade was, I'm looking to get in before, get in when it looks the most bleak in order to be selling into the strength when it looks the most opportune. Because geez, how many times have I been in those, and like related to the PPSI to, buying a breakout here. Normally I would be buying a potential move here like this, where I would have been selling into on the move that I just did here today. I would have been buying okay, sweet, we're getting some nice strength. We're coming just under that $15 mark. We're gonna start building up with some nice volume here. We're gonna break through that. I normally would have been buying there at that point. Whereas now on this trade today, I've set myself up so well and started in when I allowed myself the understanding of, okay, well, while I'm in this trade, it's, we're testing 1401 pretty hard here and it's looking kind of weak, and I got to go through that just a little bit more of a mental stress babysitting this thing as it's doing that. But man, what an awesome opportunity it's set up later for the actual trade to happen. A trade that I would have never gotten the chance to had I just played it totally safe and waited for actual confirmation of a potential trade to happen, which, I would have been looking at this point here, this little perk as, okay, now I'm getting in at the potential probability of this thing scaling above $15 and then having a breakout on the daily and continuation for this 22 million floater. Whereas the times that I've gone through that and tried to do that over and over again, I end up getting the same thing that happened on this chart today of like, it just immediately broke from there. It just didn't have any follow through. Whereas today on this type of setup, selling into that point that I normally would have been buying in. So great strides, great steps in that regard of it's tough to push that trigger to get an entry when it does look so bleak and you're having to babysit it a heck of a lot more. And then the thoughts are going in more and more of like, okay, there's a lot of signs pointing to this trade not working out. I don't think it's actually going to happen. But when it does end up happening, it's a nice little scalp to sit through. I did end up getting faked out through that initial pre-market position here, as you can kind of see, as it did break that $14 level, because there was just nothing showing under the bid from 14 until like 13.3. So I'm thinking, okay, if I'm going to be very trigger ready, if we break 14.01 on that bid, which it would never really broken here in this pre, if it starts to press on 14.01 and then go to that 14 because there was some showing at 14 level, it could get a huge slippage if somebody just immediately comes in and wants to tank this thing and drop it super hard off the table, because I'm not seeing any support underneath that. But of course, some support did come in to fill in that gap, 13.9's area here, and it immediately did reverse it off of that. So wow, okay, I just was proven wrong with that little entry, got back in at, of course, I had to take a higher entry price at fill for that trade, but that was the thesis I was going off of, basing a bottom here. We got a nice little fake out to potentially confirm that reversal trade. Does little dance here, little jig into market open, then nice little bounce off VWAP. Taking off very small position, I had 20 shares of this trade, taking off 5 shares here at 14.9. I was still thinking, okay, at $15 levels is still key. We've got a lot more room to go. We've got some other runners potentially moving, setting up nicely. I think this one, I'm taking off profits almost even too soon with that point. That's why I just took off a quarter of the positions. That then I was proven slapped in my face that was all she wrote for the morning session there, for the morning volatility on that. And as it's a little bit of slippage for the rest of my 15 shares, I was looking to get out as it was breaking here, but it ended up speeding up too fast past me. So 14.4, I think I ended up actually selling the rest of those shares on that position. So very slap. That's going to be quite a trend here that I'm going to mention through a lot of other these tickers as well, that still kind of very sloppy with the entries and exits. Not even kind of sloppy, just very rudimentary and not fine-tuned like a sniper with those entries and exits. And that's I'm not angry at myself, I'm not mad at myself. That's going to come with time, that I'm going to continue to develop that way. But just about, I'm still patting myself on the back and giving myself that accomplishment. Okay, we're seeing the right things and we're accomplishing far better steps than where we were last month, a few weeks ago. So great steps that way. That was CFVI. And yeah, wrote in my journal here, as I'll mention on PPSI. PPSI had a nice little squeeze here within, it's kind of identical, the third attempt to get some squeeze. And CFVI wanted to do a similar thing, but it didn't have the legs. So it was maybe like PPSI just drew away all that attention and sucked out all the opportunity for CFVI to also have a similar type of move here to continue on, to squeeze any more shorts that were bagged in off or hopping in off of that initial move off in the morning volatility. But it just didn't have it in the books there today. CYTA, let's go into now. Unfortunate again, that's this crazy mover 2 days ago. This is the third day surge style of pattern. Had a move in pre-market today, holding this little wider range, $5.8 to $5 type of range there. Sketchy, do whatever you want to do in pre. As we're scaling into closer to market open, though, it's kind of finding a little bit more tighter of consolidation. So I'm starting in again, similar thesis with CFVI, that I was kind of riding with both those and looking at ISIG kind of in the background as a potential short. I'll get into that in a little bit. but didn't short it, luckily. But kind of going with those three as my ride or dies. Hey, there's other tickers going on, but I'm going to focus on these three just to keep my attention there, because it wasn't so wild and crazy like comparable to Tuesday, comparable to Wednesday. Yeah, it's yesterday, Wednesday, of just like blow your socks off. There's a heck of a lot of movers out there. Just saying, hey, this is my lane, this is my focus. I think these are the ones that are going to offer the most opportunity here. If they do, if they don't, we're going to stick with them that day. It is what it is. Anyway, again, similar to thesis, starting in with small position size, scaling in, and of course, small position. Small position size overall, just of course, because we're getting back into that real trading type of modality there. But same thesis again, that we're buying it when it doesn't look like there is momentum there. We're kind of buying closer to the end range, to saying I'm trading off of a probability that really isn't in my favor. I'm thinking the risk reward potential on this one could be ludicrous for what the fundamentals on this one are, how it moved on that first screen day, just looking based on that and how they these past few weeks of how we've been trading. The other CYTAs, ISPCs, a while back, ISIG, how it moved today and how it moved on its first screen days too. Potential setup there certainly was in my favor, but again, just did not happen. And respecting cutting losses quickly, understanding when to cut it and move on, to say this trade is not going to happen. Tried 2-3 times here to say, okay, could we buying a little dip and rip style of trade here? Could be finding a little base here. Thought we were putting in a little base closer. We didn't want to even give, not to say I didn't want to give it till 9:45, but thought we could have had a little bit perk or reclaimed a VWAP closer before that 9:45 time frame. I just didn't have it, so got stopped out 2 times individually there. Then we actually did have a nice perk, a squeeze above VWAP. This was around the same time as ISIG was moving as well too, just going absolutely berserk. So to say, okay, it's kind of look at this as a sympathy potentially there. Could get some nice squeeziness. Big volume was coming in as well, but it just wasn't there. And the volume comparable to that first green day was almost non-existent in the same light too. So, you hope and you pray for different patterns like that too, but you also have to respect it when it's just not going to happen. This was a it was a little bit of consolidation and build up that gave it the chance, if it was going to run there, for where my entry was. I thought I was buying just before a crazy little spike move into a halt, but to no avail. That was incorrect on that thesis, and that was all she wrote for that ticker. This ticker today. They also had a 424B3 out at like 2.8 million shares. Nothing ludicrous and crazy, but maybe that scared away a few people there. Yeah, just tough, but learning lessons all around through that. ISIG, I'll mention now, my last trader of the day. What an awesome move there. This one kind of really saved me. Took away a lot of those, ate into a lot of those little paper cuts on CYTA. It was very cool, just of course to be a part of it, this little experience, but very cool to, the first thing I wrote in my journal here, to see the bidders halt at the first halt at 950 here. Just the stack of bidders trying to escape, to the shorts trying to cover at this 950 mark before this halt. I thought it was going to be another 10-minute halt, because this first halt here right away in that 3rd minute after market open was a 10-minute halt, so I thought I had a little bit more time, but in this trade. So going back to what I was looking at pre-market, I'm doing a lot more of the talking through all the charts that I'm watching in pre, and trying to dive in more depth with fundamentals and technicals, and express those verbally as well. So I just have to put on another layer of teaching and education that way. And this one too, looking for the same thing of, okay, well, maybe if we get a little bit toppy, I could look for a potential short on this one, start call it a first red day or reversal of a trend if it just doesn't get the volume there. But boy, what I have been screwed. I'm glad I respected, or I was looking at something else and caught this one as it initially halted to the upside, and recognized immediately after that, okay, well, I don't want to be short this one. We're going to go ahead and get long. So after we did get the open from that halt, got a nice little buy of 2 shares. Again, keeping that position size very small, especially on this one with just how volatile and crazy it is. I will gladly just keep that position size on the smaller side while we're still in this educational learning experience. But man, totally a huge opportunity there. As we got a little bit more price action, closer to like 10% or right into this little $22 push area. Took off one share, and then it had a little bit of play, but still above VWAP. So I was thinking, okay, this is very nice. This could suck in the shorts. This could squeeze them crazy because they're thinking they're getting a nice little deal trading off of this little technical top here. And boy, did we get a nice little squeeze off of that. Continues to just absolutely rip. And then finally, I'm taking off my second share as it's peaking under 32 here. And these ones are great because, too, it's just like, you know, where's the top? How can you possibly try and ever pick a top? And it's the same thing with the DWACs and the funds and the GameStops and the AMCs. Of how do you pick a top and how do you know? Because nobody knows. And especially, too, even if you're selling, even if I'm trading this from the $20 and selling it at 30, what I get, like 31 something, you know, that's awesome. But then if this thing continues to go and it starts to get to 40, and then you could have a fortune teller say this thing will be at $100 by the end of the day, still being able to like mentally get in that space of understanding, okay, this thing is still going to double even after it's already at 40, even after the crazy move it's already had. Just trying to wrap your head around that and continue to push that button as it's still going up, man, that's something that the market has to show in order for a recognized trader in order to take over and over again, to take confidently in that regard too. But yeah, glad to be a part of it. Overall, I'm just kind of just spitballing with all of this, but glad to be a part of this as always. And great lesson of just saying, okay, pick a number. Where do you think the top is going to be? Is it 32? Could it just kind of get a random little spike? Do I put in, as we're trading here, do I put in a little limit order at 33 and then somehow randomly we just get a quick little spike there that fills me and then it pulls back? You know what? Pick a top. Obviously, it still had a little bit more left in it. We're bringing in a few more shorts after that top where I kind of just picked decently, adequately there. Did have a little bit more legs, but 35.5 was eventually going to be at the top there, and that was all she wrote. Great experience. This chart is really all that I can say. It says 1,000 words for itself of the chart move that it had to. It's one for the record books. It's one for the review charts of, man, opportunity. Awesome. PPSI I'll get into now. Did not trade this one, but yeah, I mentioned with that CFVI. I'm glad I caught this one off of Bowen's pre-market prep that he mentioned this one for the daily, how it's holding pretty nicely, curling underneath this little breakout point, call it $12, this little range, $12 range. Holding decently in pre-market today, kind of had a hard little sell-off in after hours there, but reclaiming, going nicely. And as I see it perk above VWAP here, I'm going, okay, is there going to be any volume coming in on this one? This is where I normally screw myself. The same thing on that CFVI. Yeah, on that CFVI of where I would normally just have been buying kind of randomly, pretty much right around the tops of this 10-8, this first move of the morning volatility, and been screwed to say, oh, well, it just didn't end up working out. It didn't fail. There was no volume to continue this. But recognizing today, too, good no trade for me on that first one of recognizing there's not a lot of volume continuing to push this thing further, and it's going to need that in order to just go right away. So a little fall off from there, but sure enough, eventually did reclaim and have a nice test. Huge volume surge out of nowhere to push this thing into a halt. And great little fall off to the downside after that, too. Unfortunate to see that no follow through and just a hard fade after that, but kind of had to play both sides and adapt to what the market's throwing at. Opportunity all around there on that volatility. ENSC I'll mention just last year very quickly. Again, no trades on this one, but huge pre-market percentage move. One of those big daily boys after I had a nice overnight short on this one that I mentioned yesterday. A new strategy that I've just not been a part of, and thought it was, and I pulled this chart up today and see it's up huge in pre and thinking, oh man, that would have been a good overnight long. But then again, the same thing of, no, it kind of wouldn't. And in hindsight, it's obviously a very nice move, but like where we're closing yesterday, it could have just very easily topped here at 3.2 and then, pulled back to 2.8 or so. Just not been the most awesome. Maybe you get out for break even, but it's just nothing crazy, nothing beautiful there. But certainly in hindsight, yeah, that's the best. Hindsight is the best trader of all time. Yeah, pretty awesome. Nice. I got a screen recording on this one on that level 2 and time sales today for that. So Man, that is it. Like I mentioned, no scans for me right now. We're shooting this before the market close. We're taking off a little bit later today, heading out of town, so there will be no day trading recap for tomorrow. We're gonna take a nice little mental break, just step away, continue to clean that palette, refreshing the perspective, and hit next week hard. Continue to see if these winter months start to heat up at all, produce even more insane volatility that we can begin to dip our toe and even maybe a little bit more of a foot into the actual trading of the cash itself rather than just the paper trading. But glad to get that confidence back through being able to do that paper trading aspect of it. And that is it. Talking way too much. Getting back to the Zen. I thank you guys for watching. We will catch you guys on the next one.